Hello! Thank you guys so much for clicking this video today. I really appreciate it. This is the Cardano Aura podcast. I bring the builders on in the Cardano ecosystem, people bringing value. And today I have Damon, the co-founder of Charli3, and we're going to be learning about Charli3, which is a decentralized Oracle solution for Cardano. And I personally don't know too much about Oracle, so I'm really excited to learn more, and hopefully in turn you guys can as well. So how are you doing today, Damon?
I am doing great. I'm glad we finally got this together. I think you're one of the better voices to listen to within the Cardano podcasting people. So really excited to engage with your community.
Yeah, me as well. And as I mentioned, I really don't know much about oracles, and I learned so much by, speaking to people. And you being the CMO, I feel like this podcast is really going to be good for my growth moving forward because people are going to realize that a lot of these decentralized financial solutions rely on data, and that's what we're going to be talking about today is how they can use you guys to really get that data. So I mentioned it a little bit, a decentralized Oracle solution, but what is Charli3?
Yeah, so like you said, you didn't know much about oracles, and that's fine. I didn't know really much when I started either. But you're right, almost all of these DeFi apps and even gaming apps and everything need data feeds. And how can they get that? Well, it's not on chain, right? It's in other places, right? So we have to connect to APIs that are on chain, some of it on chain anyway, like the other crypto price feeds. As well as other types of price feeds like weather, stocks, foreign exchange data, whatever exists out there, sports, election results, whatever your application needs. And we're able to basically take that data, translate it in an intermediary process, and or I guess give it out to the projects to use however they need it, right? So they'll put in a call, and that will trigger our systems to find that information and be able to give it to them. The smart contracts in blockchain in general cannot communicate to those outer off-chain sources. So that's where an Oracle comes in to do that. And they're pretty complex pieces of code, which is why there's not a lot of them out there.
So what is an Oracle, practically at a high level? You said it's bringing in data from the real world, giving these smart contracts the ability to use that data as they can't really, perceive the real world. But is it really just like a server or almost like a stake pool?
I'm not really sure because I'm not exactly experienced on what stake pools, how they run, right? And so I'll just say, I mean, what it is to begin with. So we have the way we can say that we're decentralized is that all of the information from these different APIs comes from different node operators, right? So it's a network of node operators that are basically doing off-chain computations in order to get this information from different APIs. So when a project, say like Indigo, which is doing synthetics, needs an update for prices on whatever their trading is at the moment, they will call into the node operators and say, we need this. The node operators have that kind of information. Maybe a set of 5 or 10 of them give that information from different types of APIs. Our system aggregates it, averages out that data to have a consensualized truth data source that then gets put back to the projects. And in order to have security on that, we have different functionalities put in place in order to penalize bad actors, right? So if there is a node operator that tries to throw a bad value out there that's way out, it gets completely slashed. They're no longer part of the network because of their badness, I guess. And then it keeps the data source true. So everybody's using the same thing. And that's really good. And the way that works, how they pay is that they actually grab Charli3 tokens and they pay that out to the node operators, which are staking a certain amount of Charli3 in order to have that capability of being that node operator, because you then get paid by every update that comes through, and more we build, the more updates there will be, more money there is.
So if a project, let's say a DEX, a decentralized exchange, they need to, pull, let's say, price feed data, they would actually have to buy the Charlie3 token and then pay the node operators to collect that data.
Correct. If they need it. So DEXs generally are dealing with their own price model. It's interesting because they have their liquidity that's sitting there
Yeah,
within their
like
DEX.
AMA, the two pools. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because then it's really the price is determined, based on the ratio of the two tokens. So, that's right. That really isn't a good example. What are some good examples of, decentralized applications that, really need oracles in this data feed?
Yeah, I mentioned one before, which is Indigo. Another one that's great is Vi coming up. So Vi has their aggregated neural net thing that's going on for like an automated trading platform between different, let's say, what are they, farming and yield farming applications, right? So once it automatically learns how to trade properly and where the best, boosts and prices are, they need to have that updated information from off-chain farms and everything, so their system can know, oh, that one's doing better now, we got to jump to that one, or else it's somebody manually just trying to update it all the time. Wallets can do the same thing, right? Some wallets will, depending on their function, potentially need an Oracle solution to continually update the price of whatever you're holding, which obviously you want to know. I would
Yeah.
assume. And then Indigo, who's doing synthetics, right? All of their trading platform is coming from the stock market and foreign exchange. So they need continual updates on what are those prices and what are you trading in crypto value towards those prices. And is it legitimate? Is it at the time, right? Because just like our functions, right, and crypto, people are trading constantly. The market never sleeps, right? So every, 10, 15 seconds is usually the normal update. It changes, right? And we want to make sure that those values are on point now. It might not make a big difference to someone who's trading like, even just up to a couple $100. But if somebody's trading a few $1,000s and the decimal point is off by one, then you're out by a lot of money, and people can start leveraging that and arbitraging different sets of data. So that's where an oracle comes in to try and minimize arbitrage differences.
So how do these node operators collect this data?
Yeah, so there's things called APIs that other platforms have. So wherever the data is being processed, so like a weather station or the stock market or whatever is out there that gives out data. Now, usually this data and these APIs are free to just an individual user if you're not trying to resell it, but because we have to pay for it. So how do they get that? We actually pay for the APIs, and they set themselves up to grab the data from them in some sort of an agreement. So they're set up to continually have this feed of that data from that API coming to them, and they will grab that same set of data, multiple ones from different sources, because there are different sources that put up these values, and they are different values most of the time. Some are exactly the same, but some are, like I said, that decimal point off. So then
Yeah,
that's why
because you
we
have
have
to get
that
them from
aggregated
centralized
value.
sources, and they're not all going to agree with each other.
Yeah, and if we just pulled it in all ourselves, then there's no decentralization there, right? And there are some oracles that do that. There's first-party oracles that kind of do that, and they just directly connect you to one API source. And I think that that's fine if you're doing something in like a gamification thing where you don't need updated values, you just need some sort of value to replicate something like the current weather in, I don't know, Boise. And but for trading platforms, obviously you need to know the continual updated feed, and if you want it to be redundant and specific, and like I said, it can centralize truth for all projects to go off of and all front end users to be trading from, you want it to be that exact same value. So that's where our aggregated model comes in from the multiple node operators that are doing their own computations, and then we just aggregate and average basically those pieces together.
So how would you average, something that isn't a number? Let's say one source is saying, sunny, and another source is saying cloudy. What do
Yeah.
the, operators do then?
Well, I mean, it's still numbers, right? In the background, it's still
Is it?
just a bunch of zeros and ones saying what it is, right? So that's where those APIs come in. It's still kind of binary in the background, right? There's a certain amount in their systems that, certain spelling that will say this in numbers, and we process that numerical side of that data, so we can understand that. Now, if there's two different news sources saying the same thing, or sorry, totally different things for the same area, then obviously that's a problem. We would have to aggregate off of more sources and find whatever the average is between those. So if one was saying super sunny and the other one saying it's going to thunder and lightning and hurricanes, uh, either our systems will just go, you guys don't have your crap together, we're not putting that data out, or it'll just say it's just going to be a normal day. So
Yeah.
I think that's up to the engineers to build that one in however they want, but hopefully we'll be able to pull from more than just two sources on any set of data, so we can have a better understanding of what it is.
Yeah, and then you can come to some sort of consensus, in case that it isn't numbers. That makes sense. So, in Charles's whiteboard video, he mentioned Stakepool operators as, being entities that offer, services to, people as they use the blockchain. And
Yeah.
Charlie3 in the node operation behind that is one of those first services. We have Sunday Scoopers now. DC Spark is going to need them, so we're starting to see more necessity for node operation. How is your node operation process going to work? Is that ever going to be opened up to the public? What is the onboarding process for that?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely, people are excited about it. Like you said, it's everywhere. I mean, World Mobile's got their node operation too, with the Earth nodes, and we need this for decentralization. It's the only way to do it, is to push this work out to other people. So beginning, obviously, in Cardano right now is a little bit hectic, right? And people are inventing the code as they go, right? There's nothing to pull from. So on our side, as far as bringing in the public, yes, eventually. However, off the beginning, we're only really going to be taking on experienced node operators, and that's in the public's best interest as well, and the project's best interest, because then we can actually get up and running as we're figuring out the code, as we're beginning integrations with people, and starting that process of understanding how the Cardano ecosystem is going to start to grow and work. Experienced node operators or state pool operators, whoever, that can do this, it just means there's less hand holding off the beginning, so we can focus on building our core product. They can get that side up and running, and once that's all set and done with our initial set of people that we will be going through a full interview process with, then we'll be able to open it up to the public to have nodes, and we'll have we've been discussing different tiers of node operation depending on how unique or uncommon the data is that you're trying to get, because there is stuff that's like really quick and easy, and there's lots of sources, and there's ones that are more exotic sources of data, I guess, that would cost more for the projects to grab. So you might not have as many updates as a node operator to give to the projects, but each one would be more expensive. So we'll have different tiers of different types of node operation, and that will be eventually open to the public. And even right now, if you feel like you're experienced, you can send us an email with your experience and why you think you'd be a good fit, and we'll still look at you for sure. It's not fully closed off. We're just only taking experienced applicants.
That's really exciting. There's been a huge debate lately about MPO versus smaller stake pool operators, and one thing that really excites me is there's a lot of technical people that maybe they aren't being rewarded for the amount of technical knowledge they have and the value that they can bring to the chain, and solutions like this are going to kind of I think distribute that. So people that have technical skills are going to be able to provide value through Charlie3, or as you mentioned, World Mobile, and also Sunday Scoopers as they expand. These other services that node operators can offer. I'm pretty excited about that. So thanks for explaining it.
Yeah, I think we're really excited about it too. It's really about the only thing we can do is a front-facing type of thing to the regular people, because our processes are completely back-end. Most people have no idea about oracles because they can't see them working or touch it, and use it. So we're definitely looking at that, and we're trying to bring in something in the future for those front end users to somehow use our oracles through some sort of oracleized NFTs that you can use in gamified elements or something, because right now it's too hidden. And I think, yeah, the main thing right now is the node operation to try and get people in there and, like you said, support those other technical people that maybe don't make it to the fore as much as they should.
Yeah. So at the Wyoming Summit, I went there in person. I really enjoyed meeting community members. They announced there was a partnership with
Oh boy.
Chainlink, and a lot of people in the community thought, oh well, Charlie 3, Chainlink, this big guy's coming in, so then Charlie 3 is not going to have as much power as them. However, technically there's a nuance between the two offerings of Chainlink on Cardano and Charlie 3 on Cardano. So can you explain, from a high level, what the differences are between Charlie 3 and Chainlink?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, I'll say for like there can be multiple oracles. It's actually a good thing for a chain to have redundancy in this data.
Yeah.
So far, for some reason, especially since that announcement, people go, "Oh, well, why Charlie if Chainlink? You guys are useless." And it's like that's not the case. You don't say that about multiple wallets or different types of dexes, right? So
Exactly.
same thing with
We need
oracles. I don't
multiple
know why.
dexes. We
Yeah.
we need people trying different things and moving forward. But I'll let you continue. Sorry for cutting off because it's even
No,
more
you're
than that.
totally right. I don't understand why it's just oracles. They think this, and it could have been purely because of that announcement. But either way, the whole difference is that we are built purely Haskell/Plutus native, the language of Cardano. People don't understand that almost all of crypto right now is built on Solidity or Solidity derivatives, like Rust or Golang or something, right? That is really quite easy to transition to. Haskell and Plutus is not at all. So you can't just use the same projects and the same code over on Cardano. It's the reason why the chain's not up and going yet. And Chainlink's entire Oracle system is built on the Ethereum base code. So all of their oracles have to get processed through that. And we know the congestion issues that are happening with Ethereum. We know that it can't be transferred over that easily, like we've said. There
So it's
are,
all written in Solidity, the smart
yeah,
contracting language. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So it's all written that way, and so it can't really interact with Cardano. And if it can through something like Melcomeda that's coming up as an EVM compatible layer 2 kind of platform, then it still has to take data, like cross that bridge, take data from Cardano, take it back, reprocess it in their Ethereum oracles, which are already going to be slower, and data might be mixed up now because it's taken it from a different source, a different language, right? Uh, Process it on their Ethereum side, and then have to try and send it back to the Cardano network again. So there's so many different points of transfer between different code languages and bases, and then going onto an already congested chain, that it will be slower and there will be more points of potential failure for data to not be updated properly. Will it work? Yeah, probably. Is it still a good option to use, especially for projects like say like Paribus or Redodo or even Indigo, even though they're native, right? Because they're doing cross-chain kind of functionality, for sure. Definitely use Chainlink there still. But if you're looking for the fastest, most reliable source of truth and data on chain, you always want to go with the native solution because there is no transfer of data languages. It's just boom, done. So that's where we're at with Charlie at building specifically on Haskell and Plutus. And we do plan to bridge out after that, but only after we're fully satisfied with what we've built on Cardano.
So, let's say I'm running a project that needs this data feed. Will I have to know Solidity, or at least, my engineers know Solidity to interact with Chainlink?
Yeah, you would have to manage that to a point. I mean, it really depends on how your systems are set up and how they're gonna integrate, I think. It's really not extremely clear how they're planning to actually move over. Every project that we've talked to so far has also spoken to Chainlink. Chainlink has given them no details of how it's going to happen, and basically they've said we haven't started building yet. We're just waiting. So I wish I knew, but we don't know. We've been trying to figure that out too, so we can just understand. I think it's better, also great to learn from people. And if we try to branch out, we would have to know the same stuff.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. And when Alonzo launched, a lot of people felt that there's going to be a lot of smart contracts and dexes and everything was all coming. It's all coming next week. But quickly we realized that it wasn't, and it's because Cardano's UTXO. There's also a different scripting language. So developers and builders, they had to learn how to build in a different way than you did on Ethereum. So, the route that you guys are taking, seems more native and makes more sense to me than, someone building something in, Plutus and then interacting with Solidity to pull that data from another chain,
Yeah. It really didn't make sense to us. Like it makes sense for them to want to come over for sure. It's a new market. But to have a kind of a partnership with a different chain was interesting to us, I'll say. Like if you were building on Solana, you wouldn't try and take a bunch of data from Avalanche if you have something that's giving it to you on Solana. It's kind of interesting, but we'll
Yeah.
see what happens with it. And again, it's not a problem. Like if they have a great solution that they build to work on Cardano, then that's fantastic because the more we have, the better.
Yeah, I agree with that, completely. The more the better. And, if it is better to be building Plutus on Cardano, then maybe they'll shift directions as, more people, come to Cardano and use Cardano, especially after you guys kind of set the standard with that. So recently, after the launch of Drip Drops and Sunday Swap, we've seen some congestion on Cardano. We've seen
Just
some,
a
just a little,
bit. Little
you
bit.
know, and we've seen some block size increases, some Plutus script memory increases, and it's made things a lot better. We're sitting at like 70 or 80% right now, which I'm happy with. How does Charlie3 plan to deal with this congestion on Cardano?
Yeah, that's a big question. So we are, have been working with IOHK and figuring out, the script sizes and block sizes and everything. And as we, I don't know, refigure and more elegantly code our solution, our systems get faster, and then also like this congestion and throughput issues decrease, and then Cardano's fixing it from their side as well. So kind of eventually we'll get to a point where it's quite usable. And I think that point is kind of coming up now. I shared with you our updates, which will be up before this video goes out, but we're basically able to run an Oracle already, an aggregated full system Oracle with at least 3 points of aggregation from a set of like 10 nodes. So what that means is like basically the 3 fastest that come through that are the most efficient will then aggregate and create a consensualized data point. And that's really exciting. However, as you're saying, the congestion, if we have that many updates coming constantly for many, many projects, it's a problem. But no different than the current dexes that are trying to function like Sundays. As load increases, they have to figure out new things to manage it. So our main thing for the future, and same thing with other projects, is to try and get some sort of layer 2 computation to take it off. So something like Hydra, right, where we have expanding block sizes through the Hydra heads, almost infinitely expanding by theory. So say we need a ton of updates right now for a lot of different projects that needed something right away, shouldn't be a problem. But that is in theory. In the meantime, we just continue to keep hoping that IOHK is able to upgrade their systems and increase those block sizes and transaction limits as we continue to code to suit that as well, and come to something that hopefully doesn't have to manage a ton of congestion on chain.
Yeah, so you really think that's the direction for most projects on Cardano is, essentially using a layer 2 on top of the blockchain to
Yeah,
kind of take all those transactions off of layer 1. Will you guys still interact with layer 1 in a sense? Like you just kind of
we'll still
submit it less
interact.
frequently, but the majority of the transactions are on the layer 2?
I think, yeah, the layer 1 stuff. So something that we're going to try and build in is more of a unique function for oracles is kind of an as needed basis oracle. So generally oracles are a continually updated feed, right? Like you set every 5 minutes or every 15 seconds or every month or whatever it is, but then it's constant like that. You're paying for that consistently. What we want to try and do, because there's a lot of new stuff coming up, right? There's a lot of gaming applications that don't need it consistently, or things that are going to use weather but only need an update like every, like I said, a couple of weeks or something, and maybe not even, or just for a certain event. So we want to be able to have something that has minimal transactions just when you need it, and you're just able to pay for that little bit. So we're working with the API providers to have something like that, so we don't have to pay for a monthly subscription on certain data feeds. And that would be on layer one because it's not going to congest anything. But the ones that are continuously updating, like Indigo's or Wi-Fi Finance's systems, even something like Meld or Djed, right? Like the Kodi guys, that will have to probably be on a layer two just to try and ease congestion on the chain as much as possible, because there's going to be so many others already transacting on chain to gunk it up as well. So the more scalability options we have to spread the load, I think the better our systems are going to run.
Yeah, and we do need those scalability options because we only have two big projects that have launched, Drip Drops and Sunday Swap, and we're seeing huge congestion, and that's before we even have, there's definitely a lot of users in this community, but we haven't had mass adoption, Ethereum level adoption, so that is an issue. So it's really exciting to me, that you guys have, essentially a working Oracle. What is your timeline for, releasing on Cardano? Are we waiting for the CIPs or?
Yeah, I mean, the general is the CIPs to have a better, PAB function, really. And we're working on this with the Cardano DeFi Alliance as well. So our main focus on that is CIPs 31, 32, 33 to manage the things that are stopping us from all launching, basically. So what's the timeline? We get this question every day, and it's really when's the first project that's going to need Oracle is going to launch, right? There's no reason for us to launch and start putting things up on chain if there's nobody to supply our data to.
Yeah,
so
and nobody really to pay the node operators.
Yeah, there's nobody to pay the node operators, and we're not made out of money. Like we're stretched already because, as we said, we were expecting to launch in September, or October at the latest. And we didn't have a substantial raise like some of these projects like Cardano and World Mobile had, tens of millions of dollars in raise. We didn't have that at all. We had a very, very minimal one because we thought, okay, we're going to be up and ready, and it's not true. So we're having to stretch that out. So we can't continually pay for node operations and API providers that aren't giving us anything back. So when can we launch? Basically, as soon as the first project comes in that needs Oracle data, we will work as hard as possible to get them set up with at least the first couple of feeds to do that. And another initiative we had on that, which we're still waiting to hear back on, is the Catalyst proposals that we had, which was to provide free price feeds to projects just starting up, like the first top 10 cryptos or whatever. You would have continual free updates, so you don't have to worry about your your cost on that side, because Oracle data can be kind of expensive depending on what you want. So we're trying to bolster the community in that way too, to start up more people, and the first couple of things like crypto price feeds we could do now. The more exotic off-chain data is a little bit more difficult to manage, but that initiative, the IOHK, was going to match it as well. Whatever we get, they'll match in order to hopefully boost the ecosystem as much as possible too.
So you guys have a Catalyst proposal in there now, or is that something? Okay, yeah, I didn't personally know about that. I'll make sure to put that link down below.
I think the voting has ended already, but
has it?
We'll do it. Yeah, I think we'll do the next one as well, just in case, because the more money we can get in that pool, the longer we can run the free operations for people.
Yeah, and I think that really would be a huge utility. So earlier we talked about, really the utility of the Charlie3 token. Is there any other utility? And I also wanted to clarify on one point. You mentioned that, users benefit when people actually pay node operators. How does that work? Are tokens going back to the people that hold the token?
Yeah, let me go over the little bit of a business model that we have for it. So, uh, basically, if you think of there's 3 to 4 different points, right? So we've got the projects, our Oracle, node operators, and the data points, the APIs they're pulling from. So when project needs data, they'll put through a call, basically. The node operators say, okay, I've got that data. This is how much it's going to cost. Here it is. So then the projects will pay that data forwards. And what they use is the Charlie3 token. That all goes mostly, I'll say, to the node operators. So they're getting paid out for that data in Charlie3 tokens. So that's where we say it's staking rewards, because you'll have to stake a certain amount in order to be a node operator. But that's basically like putting skin in the game. It doesn't actually matter how much you put in order to get rewards. The amount of rewards comes back from the data that you provide and whether it's good and how much that might cost. So yeah, the projects will pay that node operator for the proper data once it comes through from our systems to say, yeah, that's good, and they will get the reward. And a portion of that update comes back to us in order for us to be able to continually run those nodes as well.
So then for the average user, really it's the demand coming in from projects and buying the tokens. Okay.
Yeah. So for the average user, I mean, projects, the more projects we have, the more of our token they have to purchase. So that increases buy pressure as well as stability in the ecosystem, because projects don't just all of a sudden don't have a main function that don't need oracles, if they needed them to begin with. So they'll have to continually have those updates coming through.
And do you think they'll the data that they need will increase over time because of the amount of users and the amount of offerings?
Yeah, I mean, off the beginning, there's certain people I'll just keep mentioning them, Indigo, right? That will only start with a certain set of data just to make sure that their systems are up and running. So like maybe it's just New York Stock Exchange that they're doing to begin with. And then they're going to want London, and then they're going to want Australia, then they're going to want Forex, right? So it can increase. The gaming projects right now are kind of the bigger wild cards, is because they say, oh, we want to be able to portray current pricing like of the market in our games, just so people know, on like billboards and stuff. And it's like, that's cool, but what else can you use it for in gamified elements? These projects like Cornucopias and Network, where you have your own land and you can create your own games with types of payout and gambling you'll need Oracle data for. And it's like, that's kind of an interesting spot of like, how much will those open world metaverse gaming projects end up increasing their data needs over time, because that's the newest area, I think, of crypto.
Even just weather would be so cool. I get on the game and it's rainy and I'm like, okay, it's good to be playing a game today. And I get on there and it's like sunny and 95 or 80. I'm like, man, I got to go outside, get some sunshine.
It'll be interesting, because those will be taken from real world data sources. Like if you want to mimic like an area of tropical stuff, we can grab a bunch of different APIs from different tropical regions and have the average weather that's happening and have that portrayed in the game. So it's actually mimicking real world.
That's really cool, because
weather.
when you travel and because I personally moved from Ohio down to Florida, and I didn't realize how rainy the climate was at a certain part of year. So especially on islands, it's even worse. They're more, temperate.
Yeah.
There's so much happening all the time, rain and then sunshine, rain and then sunshine. And, people would actually get to experience that, the real tropical climate in a video game. So I think that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
So
it could also affect like what your game is. Like if you're doing a farming thing or whatever, right? It can affect you in the physics that way in the game for what your yield might be from different applications. Like, I think that's pretty sick, because the metaverse is supposed to be almost mimicking what you can do in real life in these interactions. And like, so the more realism we have in there I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it really adds to the complexity without much work, because you're taking, the complexity from life and just putting it in your game and making it seem so complicated and in a good way, So I saw that you guys are doing a NFT collection. I think it's called the Cuties collection. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just announced that yesterday. So there's 2,222 Charlie3 QDs, and people go, "Oh, why are you building NFTs? You're an Oracle solution. What the heck? You're none of our dev team has worked on that. That's purely just an outside of thing that I'm doing for the community as a more of a marketing thing. And the people that have managed that is the Canucks Publishing platform. They're kind of a lesser known NFT group out of Canada, but they are extremely smart and efficient in what they do. So we've got that, and then we're also in a little bit of a partnership with them, and then the Clumsy Ghosts NFT project as well, where there's going to be whitelisting potential from our side with our last small NFT collection called the Tubular Collection. Those were mine. We just did it as a test. I made 5 different ones and sold off 100. And those will be whitelist tokens. Some of the Canucks NFTs will also be whitelist tokens, and same thing with the Clumsy Ghosts. And these NFTs are going to have a staking platform through a third party. What that third party is at the moment, we're not sure. We're talking with Vi Finance, and hopefully they can help us out, or they decide to do something. But nothing's super confirmed yet. But the main function for these NFTs is for hopefully grabbing staking for the community, so we can give that back to you guys, as well as hopefully stabilize our price a little bit. So the idea for the staking is that you would have to put up a certain amount of Charlie3 as well as the NFT in order to get your rewards back. And it would be a longer term thing. We're looking at 6+ months of a staking operation. So more people can get in on it, as well as a larger amount of NFTs. We didn't want to go crazy like the usual ones that are doing like 10,000, because we're not here just to try and make a ton of money on it. So that's where we're at on that, and we're excited to finally give staking, because we didn't think we'd be able to. It's against securities laws in Canada, but if a third party is willing to do it with tokens that they have, then that's amazing.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And earlier you were mentioning that, because of the lack of launch, on the Cardano side with Alonzo, that you've been stretched pretty thin. So, I actually saw CC Vault, raise a lot of money for their wallet with NFTs. And, that's one of the best products that I use every day on Cardano,
Yeah.
So I think NFTs are really a good way of raising funds. And they actually did that because their Catalyst proposal, wasn't submitted, so
Yeah.
I think it's cool. It's awesome that you guys are doing that. And then also the idea of, you happen to lock up some Charlie3 tokens with the NFT. I've never actually heard of that before, so that's it's unique and pretty cool. But that's all the questions I had for you today. Is there anything that, you would like to say to the audience, or, anything we didn't cover that you'd like to say before we head out of here for today?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, thanks for everybody for listening and coming to Big Pay. Like I said, I think he's a great voice in the ecosystem, and really just be sure to stay educated. And one of the things that we do with that is I run Twitter Spaces probably every few days, just kind of randomly through our Charlie3 Twitter platform. And it's really great to get back and talk to the community and answer any questions you have. Most of them are the similar things that we just covered in this interview, but not everybody listens to everything. So if you ever want to come by and talk to us, we're fully open and transparent and always available to get a hold of. We want to make sure that nobody feels like we're shutting them out. So that's the best spot. And yeah, thanks for coming along, guys. I'm really looking forward to interacting with you more on different platforms, or our own, or maybe once again with Big Pay, or seeing you at some conventions. I know we have one coming up.
Yep, Charlie3's coming to Rare Bloom. So if you have some questions for him there, you can talk his ear off and learn more about oracles. And I want to say thank you for coming on. As I said, oracles are new to me, so I have learned, and I'm sure the audience will as well. So also, for anyone watching, if you guys really enjoyed it, make sure you comment Charlie3 down below to let us both know you made it till the end. I appreciate when you guys all do that. It makes me feel like you're enjoying the content and enjoying the education. Also, click that like button, subscribe, notification bell, all the normal YouTube shill for the algorithm. So again, thank you for coming on, Damon. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for watching.